think I'm live. If you're watching this in the future, please leave a like and please subscribe. But yeah, we appear to have good internet. We're not dropping any frames. I think we're doing good. I think we are good to go for the stream today. Yes, I think we are good to go. I was having some issues with internet earlier today, but I think those have been resolved, thankfully. And we're good for our 115th day of this streaming series. Second day without crashing. I'm at about 3.58 hours without crashing. And tonight, I haven't been streaming a lot. I didn't stream a lot last week. It's just been pretty busy, but I'm hoping I can get back to streaming almost every day, at least every other day, pretty soon. I wanna be able to build my numbers a little bit faster. It's a little demoralizing when you only jump up a single day without crashing like once every 3 or 4 days. So I'm gonna try to stream a little more. But tonight we are going to be heading back to Lusail as we were last stream, I think on Thursday or Friday last week. And I'm going to continue what I was doing in that last stream, which is just tuning my suspension. Last stream I was focusing entirely on my rear shock spring hardness, and I discovered that I really liked a slightly softer spring than I'd been dealing with before that. I noticed that with a very hard spring, you could really drive the bike out of corners and stuff, but it almost felt like I was teetering on the edge of like a wall or something like that. It was unstable. And when I softened up the spring, the stability went way up, and I was just able to really put the bike where I wanted it to go. But I did notice that I almost high-sided a couple times, I think. I don't know if I almost high-sided, but I did notice that the back of the bike, swerved out a bunch. So I went from a super soft spring up to a medium soft spring, and I was really liking that. And so I think today I'm gonna head back and just make sure that I've got that fine-tuned that rear spring hardness, and then I think we'll probably try to adjust the front spring hardness. So the springs and the forks, we'll play around with that today after I've fine-tuned that shock spring hardness. So I think we're about good to go. And I appear to have dropped some frames, but not many. We're still getting a good internet connection. I think I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna check that pretty regularly throughout the stream, and if I'm having issues, I'll probably stop this stream and try to reset some stuff and then restart, but we'll just go for it because I've only dropped 42 frames. But I think we're good to get the game started. So let's throw this helmet on. I feel a little jittery right now. I was trying to make some some homemade chai tea earlier, and I had a bunch of black tea, like strong black tea, at like 6 p.m. So I'm very jittery right now, but hopefully I'll be able to be chill enough while I'm out on the track. I'll just try to do some deep breathing. Oh. Okay. So yeah. This was what I was tweaking last stream. 513 was the default setting. I went down to 45. I kind of liked that, and then I tried 496, and I liked that much better, but it still felt a little soft. So I'm gonna try out 502, and if I'm liking that, then we will move up to the front suspension and play around with these two values right here. Good on both of those and that. Yeah, I feel crazy jittery right now. Alright, we're gonna have a slow 3 or 4 laps, just warming up and trying to get myself through this little caffeine spike. And then once we're warmed up, once we're sort of locked in, I will start to speed up and we will start testing this new rear shock hardness. And as I said, if I'm liking it, then we will start to adjust the spring hardness in the forks. So let's get our gyro going and get out there. Alright, that's better. Yeah, let's take it slow for a little bit. Way too wide there. And I low-sided on that corner last time I crashed, so I'm going to be real careful with that one. For some of these corners, I should be cutting in a lot more early than I have been. Like that last one is good with an early cut in. I think the first corner is good with an early cut in. And I think corner number 4 or 5 is good with one as well. Way too far inside. Oh, I was still in first gear, that'd be why. This corner right here is good with an early cut in. I gotta remember that. A little bit too far inside again there. I think I might be looking just a little bit too far ahead or something. Alright, I'm starting to feel kind of warmed up, but I'm still not totally warmed up, so I'm gonna still take it a little bit easy. Too far outside. Yeah, that corner really benefits from an early apex. Yeah, I'm feeling so jittery tonight. I don't think I'm gonna go much faster than I am right now. At the risk of just going too far over my skis. That was a little bit too early of a turn in. Hold on a second. I forgot to angle my fan into my helmet, so it's getting a little bit hot in here. Alright, that's better. I am feeling good with this this rear spring hardness, so I think that's slightly increased hardness up to, I think it was like 502 pounds per inch. I think that's ideal for me on the shock. I'm gonna do a couple more laps and just really get warmed up and locked in, and then we will start messing around with the spring hardness in the forks. So let's do that. And my tires might have cooled off a little bit there, so I'm gonna be ginger with them for a little bit. Way too wide there. Gotta turn in earlier. This rear spring feels really good. I'm very accurate right now. It's awesome. Alright, next lap I'm going into the pit and we will adjust our front fork spring hardness. Too far inside. Oh, excuse me. Alright, fork spring hardness. I think we should go softer first. We'll see how that rides and then we'll go up to the maximum hardness and see how the ride changes. So we're at 59, that's the default. .54 is the minimum, and the maximum is 62. Okay. And it's so interesting that you can adjust both sides. It looks like it gives you like an average reading between the two. I wonder how that affects the ride, like having one at max, one at min, versus both at 58. But we're going down to 54, and we'll do maybe 7 or 8 laps with that, see how it rides. And we'll be taking it pretty easy for the first few laps, just so that I can get used to this softer spring.
Hold on a second, my gyro feels kind of off. That's better. I'm not quite sure how a softer front fork spring would affect the ride. No real good guesses are coming to mind. So I'm just gonna observe how it works. Way too wide, wow. I'm trying to like feel out exactly how these softer front springs feel, but I'm not really, I don't know how they're acting. My guess is that it would make the bike more stable and less nimble, if I had to guess. So it should turn more slowly, just as the rear shock spring hardness affects the bike. But I'm just about getting used to it, so I'm going to start speeding up a little bit, and we'll see if that is exactly what happens. Yeah, the bike definitely does seem to be turning a bit more lethargically. Definitely not quite as snappy. A bit too far outside. That was kind of dangerous right there. The outer rim of those curbs are really rough on bikes. That's a good lap. Yeah, the front of the bike is behaving kind of weird. Oh my gosh. Ugh. Well, that is my 6th crash right there. And I should have listened to myself when I was just saying that the front end felt kind of weird. Alright, well that is another another at least 1 week break. That was a somewhat violent crash too, so maybe that's like 2 or 3. Dude. Yeah, I gotta take it a little bit easier while I'm testing the suspension out. Goodness me. Ugh, that's awful, dude. At least I'm not like losing a long streak or something like that. Oh my gosh.
That sucks, though, dude. Alright, so what were the problems tonight? Tonight, I was too hyped up on caffeine. I still feel wired, so I was just too energetic. Had a bunch of black tea at 6 p.m. Bit of a mistake. I was also just going too fast while I was testing the suspension. That sucks, man. Alright, well, for day 116, I'll probably take 2 weeks off for that one. That was a bit more of a violent crash. What even was that? What would you consider that? I went over the curb and it sort of flipped sideways. I might have gotten kind of hurt with that, so maybe it deserves a longer break. I don't know. I'll analyze that. I'm probably, since I've got a long break coming up, I think I might make a few YouTube videos analyzing all of my crashes thus far. And so I'll be able to take a closer look at that one and see exactly what might have happened if that were real life. But yeah, definitely $50 going to charity. It'll be going to my local food bank. People say that food banks are the best place for donation money, best bang for your buck, and all that. And yeah, I'll probably at least be taking 2 weeks off, maybe 3 or 4, we'll see. But yeah, if you're interested in those analysis videos and you want to see me when I come back, please subscribe. Please like the stream as well. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Ta-ta.